Hello, everyone. This is Rebecca Green for the Whiny Palooza podcast, and I am already having the most fabulous time talking to Dr. Roseann Kapana Hodge. Dr. Roseann, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Well, I'm so grateful to be speaking to you. And we already, if this conversation is as good as the pre-conversation, please listen to the end because
I
we're going
know.
to share lots of wonderful, actionable things and give you great information.
Well, and they're going to be very jealous when I tell them this, but I've been talking to Roseann for 20 minutes about fabulous stuff. And I said, we have to stop because I have to record this fabulous conversation. So let me tell you about her, why she's so fabulous, and we will jump into talking to this fantastic expert. She is a licensed therapist, certified school psychologist, and parenting expert who helps families understand children through the lens of the nervous system. With more than 30 years of experience, she specializes in complex child and teen mental health concerns, including anxiety, OCD, autism, hyperactivity, eating disorders, and ARFID, which I'm definitely going to ask her about. She is also a seasoned media expert who makes brain and behavior science clear, practical, and parent friendly. She is like the nervous system expert, and we all need her. We all need Roseann. I know I do. So I want to know, let's start at the beginning. Tell us what inspired this focus of your work.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that lovely introduction. When you've been working for a long time and just to say that I really in all of my work, I don't prescribe to what our medical and mental health system is built on, that
Mm,
you always have to have a problem and there might not be a solution. So my work has been inspired by the neurodivergent kids I worked with, the kids with mental health crises, where people said, "Hey, they didn't respond to talk therapy, they didn't respond to psychiatric medications. Sorry, I don't know what to do." That was
mm,
never in my makeup. I always believe that we can help people. We can help people regulate and we can improve symptoms, right? It's about quality of life. And I took that as a personal mission. I didn't let my clients do that work alone. I always was that partner, but I didn't know that you're supposed to just say, "Oh, forget about it," because when you're classically trained, there's a box. And if
mm.
people don't fit in that box, in their clinical issues, in their troubles, in whatever is going on, people just say, "Oh, let me refer to you this psychiatrist. Let me refer to you to this specialist." And I was like, "No, no, no, no." So what did I do? It was the early 90s, Rebecca, and I went to the belly of the basement because that's where microfiche was held. If those of you
Mm.
who know what that is, like basically we didn't have Google and you had to go and look on a basically film and find research. And so I really quickly, like I'm talking the first day I went looking, I was like, it's talking about nutrient deficiencies and these types of exercises and all this other stuff. And I was still in graduate school. And I went to my professors and they're like, yes, these are clinically valid things because this was a program, a doctoral program that specialized in neurodivergent learners. And
Mm.
who are blessed with neurodivergence. I have a math disability, so I count myself in there, and I'm mom of neurodivergent kids. You start realizing not everything works because there's such unique gifts and challenges in a
Mm.
neurodivergent brain. So they were open. They didn't say, "Hey, Roseann, forget about it. That's just cuckoo bananas." They said, "Yeah, yeah." I was like, "Talk to me about nutrition. Talk to me about neurofeedback. Talk to me about these tools." And so I always, from day right in the beginning, just integrated these tools. And guess what, Rebecca? What happened?
It
People
worked.
got better. And
Yes.
they
Oh,
stayed better because
oh,
it's so incredible. I'm actually this I didn't say this to you. So I have this book coming out, The Dysregulated Kid, and I have gone back and pulled the list of the thousands of people that I've worked with.
holy moly.
And I am talking to people. Now, many of the people I worked with, I get to talk to. And for example, my son's oral surgeon, I worked with them and 20 years ago. And so I got to hear what the kids were doing. I got to hear the grandkids, and you
Oh my
really get
goodness.
this blessing of like what happens when people decide I have to integrate everyday nervous system regulation and healthy steps into my lifestyle. There's no magic wand. You haven't seen me yet, Rebecca, but I have a magic wand on my desk at all times.
You deserve
Um,
that.
yeah, but people think there's like a pill or the one thing when they're having a hard time. And I wish that were true, but integrating these things into their lives. So to really answer your question, is my clients made me do better and not accept the standard of care. And that is a message of hope and inspiration. And, I've always poured it into every ounce of my work, the podcast, this book, but this book is different because other than buying the book, every single thing is free. So anybody can do it. I don't care how hard of a time you're having. I don't care what kind of trauma. I don't care, if you feel like you're a lousy parent or your kid's out of control. Every single person can do these things. And so I really was like, what's the resistance,
Mm.
So my people inspired me and I'm grateful for every single challenging case that I ever had because they made it easier for everybody that came behind them.
I mean, that's really inspiring. I tell my children that the two keys to success are persistence and consistency. And it sounds like you are just a persistent person who was not going to give up. And I thank you for that because, like I said, we need you. But I want to back up because I think our listeners may not even know what neurodivergent means.
Yeah.
Can you give them a brief, like, this is
Yeah.
what it is?
So neurodivergence has a lot of meanings, but I like to think of it as having a uniquely wired brain. So your brain just processes information differently. And under that neurodivergent umbrella is a lot of what we call clinical diagnoses, right? So clinical diagnoses are helpful in terms of I think of them as buckets of understanding. So people often I want this diagnosis, but I think of it broader, like, oh, so what are some of the clinical conditions under this umbrella? Autism, dyslexia, learning disabilities, ADHD. So they're really things that affect how you process information.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
communication disorders. People ask like, is mental health under there? No, but there's such an overlap because when your brain is distressed and your nervous system is in a sympathetic dominant state, which means very activated and overdrive, your executive functioning goes offline. So you're not able to pay attention, you're not able to take action in the same way. So you kind of get lumped together. And people with neurodivergence, because they process differently, their nervous system is prone to more activation and they have a 10x chance of having a mental health issue. So these things are, if you think of a Venn diagram, you start to see how there's such an overlap.
Yes. I was just thinking it's all coming together.
Yeah.
So, what do you wish that parents understood about the nervous system?
I think that really what I want parents to really understand is I really want them to rethink parenting. I want them to
Hmm.
rethink clinical diagnoses and understand that regulating it must come before everything, before learning, before taking action, before finding a coping skill, before therapy, because of biology.
Mm.
Biology is very clear. If you are overactivated, I'm going to use the word dysregulated. If your nervous system, so we all have the same basic system. It's called an autonomic nervous system, ANS. And our ANS at the bottom, if you're listening and you can visualize, the relaxed state is something called the parasympathetic state. I call it the hot tub state. You're in a hot tub, you're feeling good, you're feeling relaxed, you're feeling great. And then you have at the top sympathetic dominance. And that's when you have fight, flight, freeze, or what we call fawn. So in an ANS, a regular nervous system that's well lubricated and taken care of. Think of your car, you're doing all the right things, you always get an oil change, you're changing your brake pads, and everything works well. So when a stressor happens, you go from a parasympathetic into a sympathetic dominant. It's supposed to go there, it's supposed to activate. However, what's happening is we are all having chronic stress. We are compounding stress. I talk all the time about a stress cup, and that you are filling your cup, and you start moving to constant activation. We are not doing the little micro steps, the little things to take stress out of our cup. And
Right.
guess what? You can't shortchange it. You got to take care of your nervous system. And when you move into fight, flight, or freeze or fawn, biology kicks in. Your frontal lobes, your job manager that's in charge of your entire brain, literally goes offline. So you don't think, and all you do is react. And we are moving towards that when we think about like we're in a dysregulation crisis in homes, in schools, and work environments.
It's
I
so
mean,
true.
I have not gone to Costco in my town since 2018. Every time I would go there, so I live in it, I live on the border of New York, and everyone comes into our town in Connecticut. And listen, and this is not a ding on New Yorkers, because I love my New Yorkers. I'm always in the city. It is such a volatile place.
Uh,
Literally, like it's like you're waiting for a fight to break out. Like,
no.
and I'm like, I'm not going there. My husband's
Void, abort.
it's like, and that's kind of like, I think we feel this, right? We
Yeah.
feel this in all these places, right?
Mm,
And we have one shooting a day in America.
mm,
And I was one of 9 approved providers at Sandy Hook. And I believe all of these things are preventable, and we are
yeah.
not teaching parents, individuals to regulate themselves. And I broke it down in the most simple way, the most beautiful way in the Dysregulated Kid. This is not a parenting book. This is a playbook. It is a parenting book, but it's also a playbook on how to regulate yourself, whether you're a grandparent or you have no kids or you're an employee or you're a parent and you don't know how to put your oxygen mask on. We have to regulate our nervous systems in order to do all the things, pay attention, learn, be good friends, be good partners, be good human beings, because we are just too freaking activated, Rebecca.
Oh, I know this. I live this. I need, like I said, I need you. So how do we know when our child is dysregulated, and how do we know when we're dysregulated?
Yeah. Well, you know, kids, first of all, let's start with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, for people, I think a lot of people can understand this. And I talk to my friends all the time, and I talk to parents who have come to see me clinically, which I'm no longer doing because I'm doing just this, and really trying to change the world and make people more regulated. Is that we all have our stuff, Rebecca,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You and I are therapists. So, and that's okay. That's okay that we have our stuff, but it's not okay when our stuff keeps popping up like whack a mole and we keep getting caught in these same behaviors, right? And what does that look like for people? So maybe you had an abusive home. Maybe you had a home where people were really negative, which is very, very, very common. It's a lot more common to be in a home where people were negative, fearful, and try to instill that in you. A big character in my book is my mom, Philomena, who passed away. And she was like, I don't even know. When you read the book, you'll understand. She was like she had her own power source. And when I say that she didn't give a doo doo about anybody but her family, that would be an understatement. And
Mm.
she didn't care 1 ounce about what you thought. She was here to protect us. And boy, did I feel it. And boy, did I not know limits. I didn't know limits until I went to college, and people would say things like, this was the late, it was 1989. People would say things like, a girl can't do that. And I'm like, oh, I don't know where you are,
You're
but
like,
it's
I don't
happening.
live by that.
Yeah. So people would put limits. And so back to the question of how do we know? How do we know? So number one, we have kids and we have all this stuff. And I think people have kids and they don't realize they can trigger our stuff, right? And they can make you feel really out of control. They can bring you right back to your unresolved stuff. And boy, can they be a mirror, right? So, number one, are you feeling very triggered? Are you feeling very overwhelmed? I'm going to tell you, we know through the APA Stress in America survey, 48% of parents are feeling overwhelmed. And 41% are so overwhelmed, they feel immobilized by that stress. That's frightening, Rebecca,
It
right?
really is.
So you feel, I don't know what to do, Dr. Rowe. I yell at this kid. People even say I spank this kid. I punish. I try gentle parenting. I try. So the things you're doing aren't working. Maybe they worked for another kid in your other kids, but it's not working for this kid, right? So you're triggered, stuff's not working, you're questioning whether your kid has clinical diagnoses, you're questioning yourself as a parent. Maybe you and your husband or partner, whatever family, beautiful family makeup you have, maybe you're arguing, maybe your mother-in-law is yelling at you, maybe the neighbors. So you know things feel out of control. So let's start with that, right? And you
Okay.
don't know what to do. You got a problem. And the missing ingredient, just like my mom's beautiful sauce with her brajol, if you're in New York and you know Italian, you know what I'm talking about. We all have our special ingredients in our sauce. This is the missing ingredient in parenting. And this is why parenting is not working. And if you're not a parent and you're still feeling those things, I want you to know this book and my podcast, all that, everything I do, blogs, whatever, it's all for you because you have a right to feel regulated and safe. And it is doable. What I'm doing is showing you how to do it because we're talking about theory, we're talking about things, but we're not teaching people ways to do it in actionable state. So that's step one. I recognize these things. And as I like to say, you can't just talk about things. My mother, Philomena, would say, move your coolie. Okay. So we can't just get stuck in prayer and knowing and thinking. You've got to take one actionable step and you have to be consistent. Number two, your kids, Rebecca. So, what are behavior in kids, teenagers, and this book and all of my work is for like brand new kids, 37-year-olds that stuck at home and everything in between. Because trust me, my clinical work, literally, that's what I did.
Mm,
So age is not the factor here. It's what is happening and how stuck you are. So kids' behavior, your behavior are clues. So what are signs of understimulation, which people don't talk about? They always talk about active overactivity.
that's
So
true.
right? So, understimulation, overstimulation of the nervous system is dysregulation. So, understimulation, not listening, a lot of hus and was, problems processing in a timely manner, communication problems, maybe anxiety. You see what we call internalizing behaviors,
Mm,
behaviors that are inside, but you start to see little things, right? So, somebody's anxious. You might see them get red faced, but then they don't say they're anxious. And just so you know, kids, unless your mother's a therapist or father's a therapist, they're not going to be like, hey, mom, I'm real anxious about that test. They might show externalizer behaviors, overactivity, rage, anger, throwing throwing something.
yes.
You're going to see that, right? Those are signs of dysregulation. Now, all kids dysregulate sometimes, and I want you to know that's normal. We've pathologized the bejesus out of our kids. The moment they have a hard time, we think maybe they have ADHD. Everybody thinks they have ADHD. That is not the case. And I've done over 10,000 QEEG brain maps where we look at people's brains, and
Mm,
50% of people who came to me did not have ADHD.
that's good to
So
know.
that's a whole other story. It's a dysregulated nervous system and it shows up as a lack of focus. So when we see these patterns, and yes, sometimes it's normal and you help your kid regulate, you work on some coping skills and they get over it, right? And they move on in the learning. But dysregulated kids who really maybe have a clinical issue, maybe have neurodivergence, right? Which again, I'm not saying that's an albatross. It just is a unique way of learning, right?
Mm,
And processing. And sometimes some really cool. I married into a dyslexic family, and man, their brains are like boop bop boop bop bop, and they're always processing and picking out cool things, and I just think it's amazing. And but we have to say, our kid is having a hard time. What do I do next? Right. And so most of our options are very traditional. Like you go to the pediatrician and they're like, hey, I can give you this script because that's the way the system is designed. Like you have a problem, right? The first step should be working with a therapist or a parent coach or whatnot, but also to put your own oxygen mask on because we're not doing that because kids need you to regulate. They need you. You are their anchor. And we're not getting that through to parents. They don't understand how powerful they are. And instead, they're walking around feeling hopeless because they don't have a playbook. They don't have a plan. That's why my book is called The Parenting Playbook as the subheader.
I mean, we all need to read the book, and that might be your answer is just read the book. But I'm parenting my teenager.
Yeah.
She's given me lip.
Yeah.
I feel very dysregulated.
Yeah.
What is something that I can do at that
Yeah.
moment when I mean, my daughter has no idea how much self-control that I have because if I
Yeah.
told you what I want to do,
Oh, yeah. You want to get out my mother's wooden spoon. If she pulled it out of the drawer, you better move your butt. You know, she never ever hit me with it. My sister, for sure, she did. And I'm not encouraging you to hit your kids. This is
God,
70s.
no,
This is
no,
1970s. When we know better, we can do better, right?
yes, yes,
So a few things, right? So you do always have to look at things on an individual basis, right? So is it normal for a teenager to roll their eyes and give you a hard time? Abso-freaking-lutely. Okay? I have one kid who is the dysregulated kid who struggles and he's moved on the other side of it. He's a young adult now and I have a 15-year-old who people would come up to me and be like, "Oh, I mean, you don't have any problems with him. I mean, all the other kids are like, wow, he's like perfect." And I think to myself, you don't remember the other kid, you know? And they come out, you know, he came out like a 57-year-old Buddha. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it just came out that way, right?
they
But
do come out that way.
yeah, but I was always regulating his brother. And what happened was JC, so naturally regulated, could absorb the learning. So
Mm,
he was just picking up and he was happening. And once I regulated Max, man, he got it too. And he gives advice. Like he's great, you know? So he just had a longer developmental trajectory, right? So if you have a constant issue,
mm.
constant, you've gotta, when your kid is regulated, when you are regulated, you gotta sit down with them and talk to them. Like when JC gives me a hard time, because again, he's normal, I'm like, dude, I love you. And if you're having a hard time, you can say, I'm cranky, like I'm this. We also are very fun in our house, Mr. Hodge and I. And so we don't allow these things to happen. We use a lot of humor. I'll talk about that. But
Mm,
if it's everyday things, right? First of all, we internalize it. We're like, how dare they be disrespectful, right? Because that's probably what your parents would have said, right? But also, you have to recognize these kids' stress cups are so full.
I
Like,
know.
I can't believe what they have to do, Rebecca, in school,
I
right?
know. I
My kid
know.
in eighth grade did what I did in 11th grade.
It's ridiculous. By the time I get her after all the stuff,
Yeah.
she's done. She's
Yes.
so done.
She's so done. So I think opening up those conversations, having a different transition, but here are some real actionable things you can do, right? So, first of all, you need constancy and consistency. And good conversations with your kids don't just happen. They happen because you're constantly working to make sure they happen, right? You know, when are the best times? Is it in the morning? Is it in the afternoon? Is it on the weekend? And lean into that. I personally had to change my entire schedule when my youngest went to high school. I had to stop seeing everybody after 2 o'clock and I had to be much more present for him.
Mm.
And nobody told you your teenagers need you more. Like
I was literally, you just read my mind.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
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 And so being there next to them, that doesn't mean you're like never doing any work, but we actually like we have pictures of me writing my book with JC sitting next to me on his computer.
Oh,
And sometimes they just want physical presence. But here's what I want to say. When you're in that moment and you're feeling like your inner Philomene is coming on and you're going to get your spoon, you're going to yell, you're going to use the F word, whatever, because these are real
yes.
moments. Like I'm not going to
Yes.
pretend and
Real
just know
true moments.
yeah. And I don't hang out with anybody who's a perfect parent. So if you identify yourself as a perfect parent, don't call me.
I didn't know that existed.
Exactly. So I aim for 80% awesome.
Yes,
So you got
yes.
lots of wiggle room to mess up people.
I
Okay.
love that. I'm going to
Yes,
remember that.
please. And so what you knew, I introduced something called the love pause, trademarked it. And all it is a 3-second pause. 3 seconds,
Mm,
people.
yeah.
Take 3 seconds, do what you got to do. Be like, tell yourself something funny. You know, if you can do deep breathing is the quickest, easiest thing you can do to pull yourself into a parasympathetic state. And
Mm.
you may say, it doesn't work for me. You need to do it consistently.
No, it works. It
It
works.
works.
Do you want
Three
to know what
times.
she says?
Yeah,
Do you want to
tell
know what
me.
she says?
Yeah.
Oh, she's doing that breathing thing.
Yeah. My kids will be like, I know what you're doing. Like they'll say things like, you ask me these questions in the car when I'm trapped. And I'm like, yeah. Hmm.
Uh-huh.
So
Yep.
doing that consistently, right? And the more you do deep breathing, the more your nervous system will automatically go into that state. You won't even have to think about it. I recommend setting it up on your phone and putting a timer 3 times a day. And when
Mm,
you do your breath, right? Really simply, I do what's called a 4-7-8 breath. Breathe in for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. A little longer exhalation pulls you into a parasympathetic state. And so if you do that 3 times a day, three times in a row, 3 times a day, your nervous system will start moving in that. And so you need capacity, like your kid needs capacity. You can't be in sympathetic dominance when she slams the door on you. You got no wiggle room. And if you don't have capacity, you have every right to say, I'm feeling, I got to move away. Uh, like, don't say anything. Don't start a lecture. And then just know your child's, once they're activated in sympathetic dominance, they don't have any capacity for you. So trying to discipline them or have a conversation or reason, waste your freaking time.
mm-hmm.
Okay, people, biology tells us that. And you're going to be pissed. She's going to be pissed. And that's what happens. Now, that 3-second love pause is really important. And think about this in your daily life. When you're like me at Costco, like, I got to step away, right? Um, Annoying a dysregulated coworker. We all have a dysregulated coworker, just don't react. Like, it's okay to give that pause because it's really about you loving yourself and you loving your child or that other person. And then we're humorous. So we like to have fun, the Hodges. We're very silly, we're super sarcastic. If that is who you are, I think it's so joyful. I think it's so great in parenting to be silly
Yes.
and to disrupt, the angst. And I find it to be pretty effective 90 to 95% of the time. But if you're not naturally that way, please don't attempt it. Because it can backfire, but like we literally are ridiculously sarcastic. My
I
best
love
friend
it.
and I are so sarcastic that another friend, I did a retreat at my house. She said, "Are you okay with the way Roseann talks to you?" And Shelly said, "What are you talking about?" And she's like,
It's
"Roseann is
love. It's love
yeah,
language. It's your
Roseann
love
is so mean
language.
to you." And Shelly's like, "No, she's not."
Oh my
And we stopped being friends with her. We were like, "Oh no, we can't be friends with her. She doesn't
God.
understand
Doesn't get us.
sarcasm."
She doesn't get us.
I was like, "She ain't her people." Like, I don't know how she didn't miss that.
Oh
So
my
like it's our
gosh.
love language in our house and with my closest friends. We just like to be silly because the world is like a freaking pressure cooker.
It helps, it helps. I can't even tell everyone enough how much it helps me because there's times when I feel like I'm going to cry and I start laughing hysterically
Yeah.
and it just totally shifts me. So I couldn't agree with you more.
I'm so
So,
glad.
I have to ask you
Yeah.
what RFID is because I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. I'm so glad you're asking me about ARFID. So ARFID is a eating disorder
Mm,
that is really on the rise. And if we step out and we look at what I talk about all the time everywhere, my podcast, my book, is I want people to rethink clinical disorders as at the center is nervous system dysregulation. You now understand there's under and overstimulated behaviors, and it shows up around a lot of clinical. So with ARFID, what we see, right, you're avoidant and restrictive in your eating. It's based on sensory issues and
Mm,
nervous system activation. So their nervous system activates, they start becoming resistant to textures. This is way bigger than picky eating. And it's one of the fastest rising clinical issues I see. I almost never have anybody at a minimum who's not a picky eater, but then it can morph into ARFID. I also see ARFID a lot with obsessive compulsive disorder, also called OCD. I see it a lot with depression. And so basically, at its core, and a lot of picky eaters have this as well, there's a sensory defensiveness. So
mm,
it's not that they don't want, celery or uh, fried chicken or things like that. They're resistant to crunchy. And so I have clients that are like, everything's got to be smooth or everything's got to be crunchy. And so they become so avoidant and restrictive that it
mm.
actually turns into an eating disorder.
Oh,
And it is not uncommon, particularly in autism. It's a very what we call a comorbid condition, which is just a fancy word to say co-occurs. It goes together a
mm,
lot. And what's really important about eating disorders, all the kinds of eating disorders, you know, these are extreme behaviors. Again, I don't ever believe that any clinical issue can't be bettered and treated and often completely eliminated. I really see it all the time, and I've been doing that for 30 years. So I want to bring that hope to people. But what happens with eating disorders, and it's really an awful secondary thing, is you're not getting nutrients in the brain. And so
mm.
the more it happens, the more the symptoms, the worsening of the clinical condition, because we need fuel. And if you're not putting fuel in, what's going to happen? All of us, like like we have busy days and we forget to eat, or you're traveling and you're late on your connection. There's never any food, any decent food in airports or on the airplanes, and you feel at a minimum hangry. Maybe
Yes.
you're making some bad choices, but what happens with ARFID is that this is their norm. And so they're just not fuel to power their brain, to calm their nervous system. And it leads to even more activation and also
Mm.
to other clinical issues on top of that.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
but it is very common. And it's something that, like, you're going to hear this word ARFID and you're going to say, oh, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it. I'm hearing about it. I'm reading about it.
I am here
But
now that you're explaining it, I am hearing about
yeah,
it, which
you
is
are, right?
making me so sad as you're
Yeah.
talking about it.
And if you
So,
have a picky eater, right?
yes.
Because that is one of the top things, Rebecca, that people they want to talk to me about device dysregulation and devices, and they want to talk to me about picky eating. And managing behaviors. Those are the three things everybody wants to talk to me about.
Mm,
But picky eating is an epidemic and it shouldn't be ignored. And that's a whole other conversation that I could talk to you about. But at the root of it for most kids is the sensory component, which is shocking to parents. So we have to get our kids to eat more. And I say that with love. And I also always meet kids and families where they're at. And I never want to make you feel bad. But for 3 decades, how I've gotten kids to eat better, even if it's just picky eating or ARFID or other eating disorders, is by regulating their nervous system. If you don't regulate first, you are
amazing.
wasting your time. Stop trying to go to an eating specialist. I'm not, and I mean like a sensory eating. You've got to get that nervous system regulated. Your kid's not going to open up. I've never had a kid who I could not improve their eating. Never, because I
I'm like
regulated their nervous system.
blown away. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely, parents need to hear this.
Yes,
Really,
yes.
truly need to hear this.
Because it's
Okay.
painful for parents.
Oh,
It's such a
I
friction
see.
point and conflict for parents.
It really is.
Mhm.
So, there's a mom, her kid has ARFID,
Yeah.
she sees it, other than getting professional help such as
Yeah.
you, what
Yep.
should she be doing?
Well, definitely 100% always get professional help from a licensed provider. So, step one, right? And just so you know, in my book, The Dysregulated Kid, I have a simple action
Mm,
plan for parents, adults to regulate themselves. Like I made it where you got no excuse. It's not going to work unless you don't do it. Okay. It's so easy. I want you to think of nervous system like brushing your teeth. Okay. You're making an investment in brushing your teeth. Why? To not have cavities, not to get abscesses, not to get root canals, right? So when we do simple, simple things, 10 minutes or less, that's what I've broken it down. So I have this for you, and I have the same thing for you to help your kid with it. So I want you to feel hopeful. But you've got to make an investment in regulating yourself first because we haven't talked about co regulation. But basically, you are your kid's emotional anchor. Every single thing, again, nobody's saying you have to be 100% perfect. So don't put that pressure on yourself. 80% good, doing a good job. Um, Basically, every single component from a neurological level is picking up like a radar your level of regulation or dysregulation. And so it is happening on a deeply subconscious level. So if you're like, yeah, everything's fine, okay, your kid's nervous system is like danger, danger, you know.
I
But
know,
if,
I
yeah,
know.
yeah, if you said to your kid, you know what, I'm not fine right now, and I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to just do some breathing, and I want you to know I love you,
Mm,
that is completely different. Now, you're telling your kid you're not okay, but you're showing them you are going to be okay. That is so powerful, right? Um, and you have to model what you want for your kid. So if you don't put that oxygen mask on, you're kind of wasting your time. You can go try to get a good old thing of Ritalin or SSRI. Ain't gonna do it. It's got to start with you. And I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by that. I want you to feel inspired and excited by that because you have much more power. So that's the first thing you have to do. And you can't get mad at your kid for the sensory. I also want to say that, I've heard all kinds of, things from occupational therapists and feeding specialists. They say that kids will reject food anywhere from 14 to 30 plus times. That doesn't mean you're constantly, getting in a battle with your kids, but I want you to know you can't give up because we need a variety of foods for our microbiome, which feeds our brain, our neurotransmitters. Kids need a variety of food. You need a variety of food. So there are many, many things around this, but regulate yourself, help your child regulate outside of feeding time, and explore options on foods that are in the sensory area they like. So if I have a kid that only has liquids, guess what? I sit down with mom and I say, would they do a stew? Would they do this? Can we do this? And then try to expand through the sensory texture they like. I mean, that's so much of my work, Rebecca, is literally that, what I just told you, because it's such a painful, painful thing.
it is. Well, and I'm listening to you talk about the kids who don't want to crunch. And my daughter, my 17-year-old wants a crunch. She doesn't want mashed potatoes because there's no
Yep.
crunch. I'm
Yep.
like, what is this?
So
It's got
it's
to
a
have a crunch.
sensory textural thing. And until the nervous system begins to regulate and get down into the close, even if you just get them out of sympathetic dominance, they're going to be more regulated to be willing to attempt things. Because you got to realize when we do anything new, right? Um, uh, Today this I'm on this book tour, speaking tour, and I'm going all over the place, and I'm going to San Diego 2 or 3 times in a month in
Oh,
October and
awesome.
November. So this morning I got this amazing invitation to go speak at a reservation with Native
Love
Americans. And I'm
that.
like, how exciting. So, but then your first instinct, right, is like, where is it? How am I going to get there? Am I renting a car? And so your nervous system gets a little activated,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And you're
Yes.
like, Roseann, but that's not bad stuff. I know, but it doesn't matter. Biology is it's getting activated. So when you're asking your kid to do something new, it's
Yeah.
normal for them to activate. The problem is they don't have capacity. So we've got to take some of that stress out of their cup so that they can do the hard things, and that's a whole other conversation, Rebecca, because we are bubble wrapping our kids.
Oh
But
my gosh.
I'm not saying not to parent.
I told you I could talk to you all day.
I know.
That felt like, I want you to know that felt like 5 minutes. You can tell that I'm like enamored with you.
Oh, you're so
Think
lovely.
I just think you're incredible. The work that you're doing is so beyond needed. I mean, I hope you know how needed this is. I think you do know.
I do. I mean, listen, I'm leaving. I feel so concerned about family mental health and kid
Mm,
mental health that I'm leaving behind my clinic. Like I really need to I believe that I'm asking for an army to come behind me and help me because we are all affected by the level of dysregulation that is the normal hum in the world. And I think it's bologna and cheese. And I
mm.
don't believe we have to accept that. And I know how simple it is to break that cycle. And I thank you so much for recognizing how important everything I do, I try to make things actionable and simple because we got to follow science and we got to break it down and then we have to, bring it to people. But you got to do it, people. You can't just wish it. You can't just think
Yeah.
about it. You got to move your Kool-Aid peeps.
Well,
And
and yeah. And I've been parenting thankfully for over 19 years and I wish that I have learned this stuff, you know, I want to say within the last several years. I wish I knew this stuff
yeah,
19 years ago. It would have been
I
a
know.
totally different experience for my kids. I didn't know that I was so focused on them and their behavior. I didn't know it started with me. So I hope everybody listening hears that.
Thank you
And
for sharing that, Rebecca.
yes,
And I have
yes.
an extra bonus chapter on new parents because I have a
Oh,
dream
yeah.
and for anybody that's listening, contact me. I have a dream that this book will go home with every new parent.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That
And
sounds
there's a whole
wonderful.
chapter in there just for you, like in the
Yeah.
end, because and there's a section for parents who have old adult kids. Like I really we had reader feedback and read it, advanced readers, and I was like, what are we missing? Like, how can we make this where you get what you need and make it so simple? But thank you for sharing that. And thank you
I
for your
can't
kind
wait to
words.
read it. I can't read
Yeah.
it till September. It's
I
coming out
can't
in
read it into
September.
September, but I don't want you to think about my pre-sale bonuses as just like extra stuff. This is stuff that when you download it, that my friend Mike said to me, I never in my life ordered a book 7 months in advance. And if these bonuses are as good as this darn book, I can't wait. So these are things that you can start doing and are
Yeah.
simple today.
Okay.
So, and please know when you are an author and people buy your book in advance, it sends the signals to the Amazon gods, the publishers. This book is important, and they actually push it out more. So every single
Well,
pre-sale, it's like a
I'll go
10x.
pre-sale. I'll go pre-sale.
Okay.
So
You
tell
go to
us.
dysregulatedkid.com and you can and it's on Amazon, it's on Target, it's on Barnes and Noble, you can
Oh,
order it from your Amazon
amazing.
bookstore, you know?
Amazing.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
So that's the best place to find you.
Yep, drroseann.com, DRROSEANN has everything. You can
Okay.
click on everything, but you can go to people don't know how to spell dysregulated. And I get it. I love you. I'm married into dyslexic family. They can't spell. So it's DYS and then regulated, REG. But go to drroseann.com.
Okay. Well, I knew I was going to love talking to you. I absolutely love you. I think you're incredible, and I can't thank you enough for your time today.
Well, thank you.
This is Rebecca Green, and I want everyone to spend every day laughing, learning, and loving. Thank you for tuning in to the Whiny Palooza podcast. If you like what you heard, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. While you are there, leave a review. I love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much for listening.
Until next time.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.